Hello! Let's get started. Geometry Dash has always been well known for its user-made levels. The in-game editor has grown to be more and more versatile as updates progress and, well, to be more honest with you, as players continue to go insane, and some people have created some incredible masterpieces throughout the years. RobTop had always known about the creativity of his fanbase, and eventually, he decided to give players an in-game incentive to play levels RobTop specifically thought were interesting enough to boost their popularity among the community. The first attempt at this was map packs, but we're not talking about those. RobTop knew about their quality too, and in 2.1, he decided to right his wrongs, and once that update came out, he released the Lost Gauntlets. This new little button in the online menu contains several gauntlets that consist of 5 levels each, with the first 6 based on the 6 kinds of elemental shards that were released at the same time. Beating each of these gauntlets would reward you with a chest containing some orbs, diamonds, shards of that respective gauntlet, and certain cosmetics. Over time, more and more gauntlets were implemented, most especially during the 2.2 update, and their additions have slowly become a staple of the community, with creators making levels specifically to compete against others to be in a gauntlet, usually for monetary reward. But let's keep our scope back on 2017. Do the first 6 gauntlets still stand the test of time? And which of them has stood the test of time the best? Let's take a look. Before we begin, let me establish some criteria since we'll be ranking these levels arbitrarily. Each level will be given a letter rank based on 3 factors. If the level fits the theme of the gauntlet, if the level is fun to play, and if the level is decorated well. Each criterion will be rated on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 meaning it excels in the area and 1 meaning it really doesn't. The final ranking of the level will depend on each of these criteria. Final rankings for all of the levels will be shown at the very end of the video, as well as the ranking of the gauntlets themselves based on each level in them. For me to judge a level, I must have beaten the level twice and have collected all possible coins at least once. Please do keep in mind that I am not a Demon List player or a creator, I'm just a writer, and these rankings are all my opinion, so if you disagree with something I say about a level, then you are free to discuss in the comments. Also, admittedly, I'm not an expert at judging things, I'm not the Dean of Geometry Dash, and, this is all arbitrary. The grades don't matter. Let's just have fun, alright? Anyhow, with all of that out of the way, let's get into the gauntlets. Level 1, Outer Space. Alright, let's start with the Fire Gauntlet. What? Right off the bat, the theming of the Fire Gauntlet is basically nowhere, outside of the little object-built gauntlet at the start and the end. Why introduce the first gauntlet with an established fire theme, with a level that doesn't have fire in it? This isn't the fault of the level creator, Nikki1202. RobTop just decided to pick the least fiery level to introduce the Fire Gauntlet. That should tell you enough about what's coming next. The level itself is inoffensive. It's your average 2.0 generic level with decoration that's very glowy and colorful and gameplay that doesn't drag you along nor let go of your hand. Near the end is a boss fight that doesn't really do much for the level other than exist for 20% of it, but 2.0 levels love their right side of the wall bosses, so it's fine. It's well known as an opener, but it's nothing close to being as iconic as its compatriots in the most downloaded. This level gets a rank of C. Level 2, Overture. Once again, there's basically 0 fire in this level in the Fire Gauntlet, at least except for the single fire decal at the start, but that's not the fault of the level creator. The level itself is okay. The gameplay is almost entirely unnoteworthy, but the ship that has a key gimmick that comes and goes without elaboration stuck out is very unnecessary. Otherwise, this level's gameplay can be glazed over quite quickly. The decoration is also not very interesting either, especially compared to the rest of the levels. It is surprisingly empty. Most of the design in the blocks lies in small connectors inside and old reliable glow. It catches my eye like chalk on a whiteboard. This Easter egg is cute though. This level gets a rank of C. Level 3, First Race. This level's a little more interesting than the last two, but still quite average for an old 2.1 level. The decoration is not very interesting, just the usual for old levels like these. The gameplay is a lot more interesting to me personally, and the music definitely helps, but the coins are quite obscure for no good reason really. The first coin requires a blind jump, which isn't great, but there's a warning which is at least a softener, so the jump is still kinda janky. The second coin is a path you can't see, but the recovery is kind of nice. And the third coin is actually quite smooth, with hints hiding a secret path that's much more difficult to progress through, but rewarding after finding and passing it. This level's fun. Not groundbreaking, but still fun. This level gets a rank of C. Level 4, Shock. Okay, why is this here? This is starting to feel more like the 2017 Gauntlet than anything. Danolex, the creator, was infamous back in the day for making very samey levels that never really stood out as memorable and more as overstimulants. This level is quite similar, once being the textbook definition of a Danolex level, with constant effects that distract from the gameplay. It's most offensive at the very first part, but it does tone down as the level progresses. Initially, the ship and UFO part after the drop had an excessive number of mini-portals that made the gameplay incredibly annoying and flashy, but that has since been toned down, which I'm glad about, but not elsewhere, in places where it doesn't hinder the gameplay. The first coin isn't offensive, but the second and third coins feel kind of too easy. He could have easily handed them for free, which Danolex was not free of doing. Overall though, this level is not actually that bad. Still no fire-themed levels in the Fire Gauntlet. A shame. At least there's more going on in this level, even if that's to a fault sometimes. This level gets a rank of C. Level 5, Magmatic Sanctuary. This level. The level which is the reason I still rank the theming, because RobTop is capable of picking fire levels, just not for the entire gauntlet. This level was infamous for, at one point, being the first level in the Fire Gauntlet, before being moved over to the final space because it was objectively the most difficult level in the gauntlet, especially considering its unstable gameplay. Thankfully, over the years, it has been changed so the gameplay has become merely erratic, but that still leaves the question on if the level is good. Well, it's themed around fire. This level is actually really good. It's not immaculate or anything, but it's really good at what it's going for, being a fire-themed level. The level starts in a dark, ashen-riddled section that gives ruin vibes, with little inklings of fire sprinkled around with fire spokes and little sparks falling from the ceiling. I do specifically like these bricks, which are in such high temperatures that it's literally glowing. I can feel the heat coming out of it. Afterwards, the level's color scheme slowly gets warmer, with each pulse sparking more orange tones on the blocks before cooling back into the same gray, like the lava beneath is slowly rising. It seems to reach a peak at the wave, then drops back down in the UFO part before picking right back up once we get to the cube after, with ember bricks cracking at the seams and a ball that just radiates fire. Then we get to the erratic speeds part and all bets are off. The gameplay is fittingly intense and chaotic for a segment of the song that is also intense and chaotic, and the decoration isn't trying to call itself into attention. All you need to focus on is not dying, while the sweltering heat encompasses more of the level. The song choice and the level are a match made in heaven, by the way. It gives the perfect vibes for a level like this. As you go further through the erratic speeds, you approach the volcano that seems to be the source of all the heat and lava. The ground crumbles beneath your feet as you approach, nabbing a couple of coins along the way, and eventually getting into a section that looks somewhat different. More bricks laid out, like you're entering more ruins of some old civilization. Then you encounter a Miniar, a rock flying type Pokemon for about 15 seconds, then you beat the level. They come out of nowhere, but their presence doesn't dampen the experience I had with the rest of the level, which was surprisingly smooth, thanks in part to the update that made the level less clunky. The coins aren't too bad either. The second coin's indicator flashes by quite quickly though, but you can still catch it with a good eye. It was fun collecting the coins, and I actually felt tense playing the level. It isn't perfect, of course. The level is definitely more than just a 6-star, but for what it is, being a fire-themed level, it does incredibly, especially for a level initially made in 2.0. It's a miracle the level was updated though, because the old version, it wasn't very fun. This level gets a rank of A. Level 1, Amplification. Starting off the Ice Gauntlet is an appropriately cold level. It's not particularly interesting though. The block design and colors stay frozen throughout the whole level. The second half does have a different design, but it's not any more eye-catching. And the gameplay is your standard fare, though the tighter spaces on some of the ship parts may give you a little bit of a brain tingle. There are also some portals and orbs that are translucent or scaled down, which makes it quite easy to slide past them and die. Speaking of translucent, the coins are also extremely hidden, due to the fact that they're all translucent in some way. The first one, where you just stick to the ceiling in the second ship, is completely transparent outside of a question mark that's hard to see through the fog, so overall the coins are a little messy, but not enough to really change the fact that this level is chill, but doesn't have enough heat to be interesting. At least the song's good. Garlagan is always good. This level gets a rank of C. Level 2, Skyward. Don't worry guys, this is much better gameplay than Amplification. Alright, With that in the description, the bar is very clearly set by Chaos, but in all honesty, this level is very similar to Amplification in a lot of ways. There's still the differences, of course. There is more than one color theme, and the gameplay is a lot more energetic, if a little shorter, but otherwise the block designs are the same and the gameplay is not very interesting either. The coins are quite scuffed in the recovery department. A lot of them require invisible or moving objects, and you can miss the third coin, which isn't great. But otherwise, they don't do anything that would stray too far away from the level's goal of just being a regular level. And also being better than Amplification, which... Also, the ending message is way too long, but I think that was the point, considering the names. Lazy Boy Recliner's a great guy, I've heard. This level's fine. Definitely not better than Amplification, but it's certainly not worse. This level gets a C. Level 3, Carnation. This level is blue. It's not icy, it's blue. This level doesn't strike me as too interesting gameplay-wise, but there are certain segments that feel a little questionable, like the random mini portal spam at the start of the drop and the coins that are way too close together and way too easy to get. Can't complain though, because I have some missing achievements. And of course, the decoration is very blue. I think Ilam Aulia likes that color. It's not even icy, far from it. Everything is just blue, and the block designs aren't even anything that strikes me as interesting. Most of the designs are just base blocks with a couple glow or parallelograms slapped onto it. I suppose that isn't the point though, as the backgrounds must have been quite the looker back then when the level was first put out. Still though, why is it all blue? Regardless, this level is a cakewalk. And blue. This level gets a C. Level 4, Geobound. An auto wave key and a message telling you to practice before playing on a harder level is never a great sign. And those warnings were very warranted. Let's do this chronologically. The first part has the first coin, whose orb, which is invisible, can still be clicked even if you aren't going for it, resulting in you jumping low for no reason and falling off. You'd think you could get the coin from the distance on the second platform, but no. Also, there's this moving platform that has no indicator on it moving, which resulted many a death early on. Then of course there's the wave. The wave is right at the start of the drop, so it isn't as punishing as it could have been, but it's still annoying considering how this is in a 6-star level. The fact that a 6-star level needed a key to make a part auto is enough to tell you that this level is probably not 6 stars, or at least that specific part isn't. The rest of the first segment is fine, but the transition includes a platform fading in out of nowhere. Coupled with the speed change, this doesn't ease in the player at all, and the chances are high that they might tap rapidly, die, and respawn without knowing what the hell just happened. Not to mention another coin with an invisible orb, though at least you can only click if you intend to. One more for the road. In the transition to Axel's part after the drop, a yellow orb fades in from nowhere. It's a little annoying not having that visible from the start, but at least you'll know when to look for it after dying. The rest of the level is, once again, your average generic 2.0 level. Even the decoration is the same old, same old. It's not even close to being ice-themed. At least it looks good. This level gets a C. Level 5, Polyhedral. If one thing's thematically resonant, it's the name of the publisher. This level is okay. The decoration's quite nice, but nothing too crazy, your standard decoration for 2.0. The gameplay is really the main part that makes the level off to me. The drop being very clunky transition-wise, especially the ball in between the ship and UFO, oh my god, I've died so many times there. And the majority of flying gameplay being solely going on a straight line with little variation. There's not much else to say on this level, which is really unfortunate, because this is the last level of the Ice Gauntlet. Most of the levels weren't even themed around ice. It's a bit sad. This level gets a C. Level 1, Acid Factory. The Poison Gauntlet starts off strong with this very thematically apt level, Acid Factory. It's not quite poison, but acid's close enough, and poison's incredibly abstract as its own concept anyway. This level is quite good at setting the mood, especially for its time as a 2.0 level. The gameplay can be a bit odd at times, but overall it's completely fitting for the level's song, even if some parts are weirdly synced. The main draw, however, is the decoration and theming, with the level feeling like a slow crawl through an abandoned facility that churns out toxic liquid, and you're just passing by like a bug underneath heavy machinery. It's not as intense as that, less like a chase through a forge and more of a stealth mission through a sewer system. The decoration really complements the vibes too. The block designs are drab and dark, but in a way that still sticks out to the player as something they can interact with, and not to mention the subtle increase of the green stuff that comes around at the end. Really, the only issue I have with the theming is that it kind of goes nowhere. It's just a crawl and it ends, without anything major happening. But that's fine. This is only a 4-star level after all, it doesn't have to be all bombastic and crazy. And even without it, it's still good at setting the mood and holding it around you for the minute and 22 seconds it lasts for. This level gets an A. Level 2, Beast Mode Full. Why is this here? No, really, why is this here? Because it's green? Because this level is really not fitting here. It sticks out like a sore thumb. It's only barely on theme, and the part that's somewhere close to poison ends halfway through the level. And the rest of the level is closer to lava than anything, but we haven't even gotten there yet. The gameplay doesn't make it any better. It does the usual with Geometry Dash levels, simple jumps and all that eye-shutting goodness, and the decoration downgrades significantly after the part that's directly copying Beast Mode, though, in fairness, there's not much you can do with what you had. It's not because it's objectively bad, but the difference in style is so evident, and the rotating background is so unnecessary. Not to mention that the design reeks of early 2.1. Also, this is called Beast Mode Full, but it's not even a full version. This level is not my favorite. Why have a full version level in one of the Gauntlets? This level gets a C. Level 3, Ground Zero. I want to like this level more, but it's not particularly that good as a level in the Poison Gauntlet. The gameplay is fine, it's fun for what it is, easy enough for a 5-star, but the decoration is the main issue that I have. It's very dull. It starts with the metallic factory blocks and ends with the metallic factory blocks. The flashy colors and varying structures help, sure, but at the end of the day, the block design is all the same metallic factory blocks. And it's not like there's any flourishes in the design, it's all the same wallpaper over every wall, and it gets boring. Somehow it still hooks me. Probably the colors. So it's not all bad. Still not great, but not terrible either. This level gets a C. Level 4, Shrimp. This level is quite good, honestly. It's a collab between multiple creators, and the creators happen to know what they're doing. The decoration is pretty good, especially the part by Highscore 47, while some parts are a little blander, particularly Shady's parts. Overall though, the decoration is pretty, and not too obtrusive. The gameplay is also quite smooth. It's definitely not perfect, and definitely a bit hard for a 6-star, but it's certainly more fun than your usual. It's a lot less fun the first time, but after some practice, it's not that bad. The coins are a little strange. The first coin has an invisible input, and the third coin is, what? But the second coin is fine. Quite pure, actually. So yeah, it's a good level. The only issue is that it's in the Poison Gauntlet, and there is literally no theming related to poison at all in this level. Maybe RobTop just doesn't like shrimp. Whoops. This level gets a C. Level 5, Generation Retro. Oh boy, oh boy. What else can I say that hasn't been said by the likes of Colin in the comments section? This level is not good. At all. But I kinda love it. It's not a good level by any means, but I don't hate it. I find it hilarious. Everything about the level is hilarious. The incredibly written dialogue, the wonky, almost good gameplay, the strange designs and the monotone colors, the boss fight. So many things about this level sucks. Like, really sucks. But I still find it fun, especially because of how bad it is. It's like the Room of Geometry Dash levels to me, and it have won my heart. Maybe I'm just biased. Maybe knowing about this level beforehand skewed my judgment. Well, whatever the case is, I still think this level is fun, just because of how ridiculously bad it is. And it helps that this was made by a 13-year-old. I can't wait for part 2. This level gets a D. Level 1, Spooky Light. Well, this is a surprise. The Gauntlet kicks off with a very good level, and a thematically relevant one too. The level starts with a minigame, where you control this little guy, slowly traversing this cathedral-esque building, stopping and starting depending on the lighting. Once thunder strikes, you continue progressing, at one point being face to face with Boos from Super Mario World, but you keep progressing anyway, towards the ship segment. Once you're in the ship, you're prompted to pick up this lantern, which lights up the next area, seemingly deeper into the mansion, laid out with blue crates and large rickety shelves, all ripped from Super Mario World as well. The segment involves repeatedly picking up lanterns to see your way through, though it is certainly possible to get through blind as a bat. After the ship is a UFO segment, which is a boss fight against King Boo himself. He sends his friends after you, whom you must ward off with the lantern. It's not all that challenging or tense, but it's quite cool and is easy to pick up on. Continue eliminating King Boo's spawn until he himself explodes into several Boos. Congrats, you've committed regicide. Welcome to the jungle. This segment doesn't have any gimmicks or anything like that, but it's just fun icon gameplay that flows well. The jungle is simple, but you can still tell it's a jungle, even with the little decoration that's been used here. And it feels really nice entering such a bright location after being shrouded in darkness for the majority of the level. The coins are also not too bad. The first two are quite simple, not anything crazy, but it's good for what they are, and the third coin is a little strange, but I'm sure outside of low detail mode the orb is indicated better. The alternate route is also quite smooth as well. Overall, this level is very good as an opener, and just a good level overall. But it's by Sir Punch, so of course it was gonna be good. This level gets an A. Level 2, Ominous. This level is also pretty good. It's nothing to write home about, but it's a good level that fits the Shadow Gauntlet. The gameplay is quite average, but it's not boring, and at some points it can be quite fun. There are invisible slopes on the UFO, but at least they're not completely hidden, and also it's generally just quite nice to play. No weird clicks or anything like that. The decoration is all black and white, but it works because every section is varied enough to stick out against each other. It's incredibly clean, especially for the time this level was made in. Overall, this level is really good, and is a serviceable follow-up to Spooky Lake. This level gets a B. Level 3, Ghost Town. For a ghost town, it's pretty lively. It starts off pretty dark, sure, but as the level progresses, it kinda drops the pretense of being anything shadowy or spooky. And I mean, that's not the point of the level. It's just trying to play around with the idea of spooky ghosties and zombies, which, honestly, Ichor does quite nicely. I like how the ghosts are just inverted monsters and how the zombies are little background elements. Plus, the callouts for ghosts and zombies tickle something in my little pea brain, and I imagine Shaquille O'Neal saying them.
The jack-o'-lantern.
Playing through this level made me think about two things total. One, that Ichor really likes their keys. Two, being that without the cool colors, the ship at the drop is incredibly boring, and is really just hard because of the breakable blocks lining the pillars. But even then, they're not that bad because this is a hard level. I imagine there'd be more than just a straight ship segment, but maybe my standards are skewed. Regardless, this is a fun level that only somewhat belongs in the Shadow Gauntlet. Zombies! This level gets a C. Level 4, Fear Zone. If you're entering Fear Zone expecting to be afraid, then I'm sorry to disappoint. This level is definitely a relic of its time. The level's not bad, but it's very outdated, especially in the decoration department. It also happens to be a little too much for my taste, but that's something for you to judge. People like thinking space, so who am I to know? Right at the start, you're giving an on and off gimmick, where flicking switches enables or disables objects. A coin can be found by skipping over one of the switches, leading to a path that holds a coin, though you phase through a block for some strange reason. It's a little scuffed, but it is interesting, then it never happens again. Why not? There's also the second coin, which is your average key coin, and the third coin which... ooh, this damn coin. The rest of the level isn't that interesting. The drop, where you enter the Screamroom, is sort of an adrenaline rush, but only compared to the rest of the level, that's your average level. The pre-drop before the Screamroom is also pretty cool, and the closest part that really fits the Shadow theme. Otherwise, nothing else to say. This level gets a C. Level 5, Infusion. The last level of the Shadow Gauntlet is not really Shadow themed at all, but the level itself is fine. The gameplay isn't very notable, to be honest. The coins are incredibly well hidden, however, with 2 of the 3 coins being completely hidden outside of subtle signs. The second coin is tucked right between this ceiling spike and this gear, so be careful when snagging this one, because there's a non-zero chance you get churned up into butter. The decoration is also quite average, not as boring as most generic levels, but it's still what you come to expect from old levels such as this. Shady does enough with the colors to keep everything interesting, avoiding your eyes from glazing over anything too important, and keeping attention away from possible coin routes. The number of times I've missed the second coin is innumerable. The level's quite good, but why it had to cap off the Shadow Gauntlet is beyond me. The level is only slightly shadowy. This level gets a C. Level 1, Infernal Arena. Despite what you might expect, Infernal Arena is hot in display only, as its gameplay is quite chill to the touch. Expected for a 3-star, but the level's less chill and relaxed when it comes to how it plays, and more cold and tired. The coins are 1-to-1 to Viking Arena, which the level borrows from in droves, but they made it less fun to get. Not even the good coin. The level definitely looks the part of a lava-themed level, even if its heat leans closer to the fiery brimstone of hell than it does the warmth of bubbling magma. Suomi removed most of the orange tinges from Viking Arena and leaned almost fully into the red, not to mention the rub-rub sigil and the evil face at the start. It definitely leans more into being intimidated and hellish with the void of all things coming towards you instead of the wall of lava monsters, but it doesn't hit the same to me. The song, too, is quite a lot more oppressive than the powerful and confident stride of Viking Arena. The level isn't fire, but it's a fittingly good start to the Lava Gauntlet. This level gets a C. Level 2, Ichor. For some reason, the first two levels of the Lava Gauntlet have the same song, at around the exact same time. And I can only ask, why? Regardless, the level itself is okay. It's the creator's first 2.1 level, so obviously there are a couple flaws, but that's excusable. There are some skippable black orbs and weird usage of particle objects, and the gameplay can get a little odd. But it's not anything offensive, really. The coins are okay too. Kind of simple, but it's not particularly a negative. The decoration is also quite simple for early 2.1. It gives vibes of your usual 2.0 designs, but with 2.1 objects. It's quite fascinating as a relic, actually, seeing the same style the past few 2.0 generic levels use with more modern objects, but otherwise, the decoration is just standard, and also very samey throughout the entire level. There's also a weird art piece at the end, but it's metal as hell, actually. The level's okay. Not really lava theme. This level gets a C. Level 3, Frontline Full. Hello again, God of Music. This level isn't actually that bad compared to Beast Mode Full. Granted, this level is still incredibly derivative and the original parts are not too good looking, but the gameplay is actually much more interesting. Maybe it's because we get to actually play the drop instead of the level ending right when it gets good. Or maybe it was just built better. It's still not a real full version, doesn't even have the blue part, nor does it really do anything unique with its gameplay, but it's not as bad as it could have been. And that's good. Still not the lava level, it's just red. This level gets a C. Side note, people really liked having breakable blocks in their waves, and sometimes I wonder why. Level 4, Fire Aura. I may be biased because I love 1.9 levels, but this level is probably my favorite. I must admit first, this level has many faults. It is incredibly learny for a harder level, and it has some parts that are really hard to eyeball, including some blind jumps. There's also a difficulty jump in the middle part, especially during the 3x speed segment and the UFO, and the second coin's path is really buggy. But I still love this level. Obviously, the decoration is outdated, but it's still quite pretty, and is honestly the kind of design I mess with, even if it's basically just 1.9 generic design. It's still quite pleasing, but not distracting from the main level. I especially like how the triple speed section looks with the invisible objects looking very shiny, like they're glimmering in the sun. The color usage is also stellar, pumping me up appropriately, more so than without, even though I'd still be pumped. Because the gameplay is really the show stealer here. It is definitely more difficult than it should be for a level in its position. It's not even the last level in the gauntlet, but it's still so enjoyable to go through, and once learned, it flows super smoothly and is a blast to play, if not a little frustrating dying in the triple speed part. This level is definitely closer to a 9-star than a 7-star. There's virtually no theme, so I can't really rank it that high, but I still think this is one of my favorites. After all, the grades don't matter. This level gets a B. Level 5, Danger Zone. Danger Zone is quite the gauntlet ender. This level is definitely not as hard as Fire Aura, but it still fits as a finale to the Lava Gauntlet. It has the closest thing to a lava theme amongst the set of levels. It's very clear from the get-go that this rocky landscape is a byproduct of early 2.1, and yet it's still quite clean for something made only 8 days after the update was released. 8 days, my god. It helps that GD Jose was already quite experienced with creation, but I digress. The level is quite a straightforward romp, with gameplay you'd expect from a level using Machina as its song, and a drop that keeps your eyes forward and moving nowhere other than the center. The ship in the calm part is quite cool though. Circular structures like that were uncommon back then, and seeing them rotate would have amazed a couple 10-year-olds back in the day. Outside of the average gameplay and the good-for-its-time decoration, Danger Zone has little else to offer. The song may convey a little bit of that finality, but what you see is what you get, and most people's takeaway from the Lava Gauntlet after beating this level is, damn, that was so much easier than Fire Aura! This level gets a B. Level 1, Chambers. Oh god, this song. This level's pretty relaxed. The ending segment with the curved corners before the objects were added in 2.1 is cool, if a little of its time, and the decoration still kind of stands on its own. The colors that pulse on occasion stand out a lot against a monochromatic level too. As for theming, it does feel like a combination of various themes, but not in a way that feels intentional. It just feels like the varying styles are tacked in for the sake of being. Unfortunately, nothing else about this level outside of those qualities and the song really strike me in any way. The gameplay is run-of-the-mill and just as desaturated as the colors of this level, and the one thing keeping me awake was the weird vocalizations of the song. This level gets a C. Level 2, Rising. I find this level quite cute. The decoration really isn't anything different to a lot of the past levels, maybe just that the glow is glowier than usual, but there's something about how the level is decorated that makes me happy. Honestly, it's probably because of the saw blades with the silly faces. Unfortunately, the gameplay is quite mediocre. There's a weird transition to the drop which can definitely make a newbie fumble their mouse around, and a lot of the time you don't do much at all. Sometimes you just go straight down a UFO segment, or sometimes you just ride along a series of pads on platforms. Not much gameplay, even for a 4-star. As for theming, it's a surprisingly good fit. Each segment feels like it represents a certain shard theme, with poison, to ice, to fire, and to shadow. It's a loose connection, since it's mostly through the colors, but the vibes, man. The wind blowing through the ball in the ice segment, and warm lights in the fire part, the vibes are there, and I think they fit really well. This level gets a B. Level 3, Battle Town. I had a pretty mediocre experience my first time playing this level, but on replay it's not that bad. Granted, Battle Town is not really a level that'll stick to you. The decoration is your average deal, though it starts off quite tacky for my tastes, and the theming is closer to factory more than mishmash. The gameplay is serviceable, but nothing beyond that. The only exceptions are the UFO and the third coin. Those two are quite a deal more difficult than what you can compare it to, and while the UFO can be learned decently easily, the third coin is one hell of a timing. As my note puts it, the third coin is lethal. It's probably nothing to a big boy demon lister, but I am not that kind of player. Otherwise, this level is just another one to get through. This level gets a C. Level 4, Crazy Ball. This level's not crazy per se, but it is a bit of a jaunt. The gameplay is definitely more involved than the usual for levels like these, and some parts are quite fun to play. I do enjoy the Rob Top cubes moving up and down in the ship part. Otherwise, this level's an ordinary romp through basic obstacles with average generic decoration, but this level's a 5-star, so what do you really expect? I will say though, that the ending part is completely dragged out for the sake of reaching 1 minute. Nothing really happens in that part, and there's barely anything to keep your eyes from closing as you trudge through the robot. It's really the main issue in a level that otherwise has no clear problems. Oh, and there's not even a crazy ball part to speak of. Talk about false advertising. This level gets a C. Level 5, Payload. For the creator's first level in 2.1, it's quite good. The decoration is very clean and similar to Ichor in how it blends the old 2.0 generic style decoration and the newly introduced 2.1 objects to make something that has a very different vibe to what we're surrounded by today, or even a year or two after this level was uploaded. And it definitely has this sort of progression vibe to it, following along with the song growing more and more intense until the bombshell drops at the very end. It only feels somewhat like the abstract idea of bonus theme, but that doesn't stop it from being quite well decorated. The gameplay is also quite good. Unfortunately, the custom orbs at the start are incredibly finicky, and have strangely tighter registers than usual, so you can't buffer, as well as simply never appearing again. It's frustrating, being just far enough from the start and the end to be only a mild inconvenience, but it stacks. This level was also quite easy to go through for a finisher, but it still feels like a finisher, primarily because of the song choice. The first coin's jump boost after collecting is a touch unnecessary, but the other two are fine as is, if not a little easy. Payload isn't a magnificent send-off to the first 6 gauntlets, but it's quite good regardless. This level gets a B. Let's circle back to the initial question. Do the lost gauntlets stand the test of time, or should they remain lost? Well, they're certainly not bad, that's for sure, but some of the levels are certainly relics of their time. And yet, they're here for a reason. They happen to be maps that, at the time, RobTop really liked. And we've kinda learned to like as well, even if 9 years on, they aren't able to stand next to the likes of the current feature tab, or even the rest of the gauntlets. It's nice to see what the gauntlets started off with, having these simple designs and smooth, turn your brain off gameplay compared to now, where it feels as though everyone needs to be unique and fun. It's not like either of those are bad things, just depends on the execution. And a lot of these levels are still quite good, even today, and replaying these guys are certainly worth the time, even if the grades are all quite low. Again, the rankings don't matter, and if you like the levels that I didn't, that's great! I'm glad you found enjoyment in something I couldn't. Everyone's different after all, and so will their preferences and levels. And none of these levels are particularly bad choices for levels you could like or dislike. Anyway, here are the rankings for each gauntlet, based on the levels combined, and here are the rankings of all of the levels. The highest ranked is the Shadow Gauntlet, having a lot of thematically resonant and fun levels and starting off incredibly strong. The lowest ranked is the Ice Gauntlet, which is honestly closer to a Blue Gauntlet than anything, and contained a lot of strange gameplay choices and samey gameplay. Your ranking could differ, no shame in talking about it in the comments. And those are the first 6 gauntlets. Covering the rest of the gauntlets is still up in the air for me, but That happening depends on if there's enough interest. If you are interested, then you can comment down below or give this video a like. Hopefully you enjoyed watching me ramble about Geometry Dash levels for 30 minutes. I'll be seeing you.